Alabama with a shutout win over Missouri, 34-zip. Now they got a week off, and then they take on the LSU Tigers in Baton Rouge. So Alabama still alive for a berth in the college football playoff. We're going to get into that. How did they do it defensively? A wounded Tiger for sure. Missouri was definitely banged up, but so was Alabama. And you never want to discount the importance of a victory and also a shutout. Like and subscribe, thumbs up. Let's get this thing going, guys. Roll Tide, everybody. All right, there he is, Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie. Clint, your thoughts on Alabama's win?
It was a good win. It was kind of a get-right win, right? I think when you're talking about just the fact that Alabama had been struggling so much, whether it be, I think the biggest issue for a lot of people has been the inconsistent player, the poor play from Jalen Milroe. I thought he started off very much the same in this game, but you saw him kind of slowly start to bounce back. And then, also the fact that you couldn't get anything going as far as complimentary football. I think that finally started to take place. You saw what that looked like a little bit. I don't think this is a finished product by any means. I don't think everything has been corrected. They still got issues moving forward, and fortunately they have the bye week. But this is everything you could ask for if you're an Alabama fan, as far as getting to the bye week with an impressive win, kind of build some guys' confidence, and then, continue to work on what you've been working on the past couple of weeks as far as getting some of the things, regarding your own self corrected. I think that was absolutely huge for Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, look, this wasn't like Missouri 2 weeks ago. I mean, Brady Cook went out, and that really killed Missouri's opportunities to move the football. Drew Pine, not even close to the quarterback of Cook. And then, the running back was out. But Bama did a good job, though. I mean, you have to play these kind of games. You're on this long stretch where you are basically playing football every week. The SEC's tough. We're finding out that Vanderbilt's actually a pretty good team. I mean, even though they lost to Texas, they lost by 3. I mean, they were in the game.
Who would have thought? It's not, I'm pretty sure you said it going into the Vanderbilt game that, Vanderbilt's a really good team and that they had a chance to beat Alabama. And we certainly talked about it after the show, how good this Vanderbilt team is. And I think people are finally starting to learn that the Georgia State game, it's an eyesore on their schedule. But, I think that was just, a looking ahead situation. I think if they played, 199 more times, I mean, honestly, I really do feel like Vanderbilt would win all 99. So, I mean, it's just, I really don't look at that game as like anything other than an outlier compared to what Vanderbilt is. And if you take that away, the overtime loss to Missouri, and that was when Missouri was fully healthy. Still think Vanderbilt should have won that game. And then if they would have been able to do that, I mean, what would you be looking at? You'd be looking at really the only loss being to a Texas squad that is, one of the top teams in the country right now. And it took everything Texas had to beat them. So I think this is a very good – if I was the voters as far as the polls, I know this is pretty crazy, but I would move Vanderbilt up because I think they shouldn't have been ranked 25 going into this year into this week. And hanging with Texas like they did, I think they proved that. They're playing, they're handling Kentucky, going on the road after a very emotional win against Alabama. I understand they didn't look great against Ball State. I mean, it just sometimes these things happen. But when they play the big teams, they're proving that they belong on the same field. And so I don't know how far I'd move Vanderbilt up, but I think they're probably a top 20 team right now.
Wow, that's great. It's definitely a fun story. And they have a tough schedule, let's see if they can upset somebody else. But for Alabama, they did such a weird thing looking at yesterday's game, right? I mean, 34-0. But Bama was only 2 of 9 on third downs. Jalen Milroe, I didn't think he was very good, but I didn't think it was just his fault. I mean, I felt like he didn't have a lot of time in the pocket. He was 16 of 26, 215 yards, had a much better second half than first half. I thought the offensive line was going to be the strength of the football team. They're okay. They're not great. They're just okay. Booker's great. The rest of them, and you feel bad for the guy because he's back there, and sometimes if he holds the ball too long, he's going to get hit. Sometimes if he doesn't hold the ball that long, he's going to get hit. But he's getting hit a lot again, and it was good to see the second half adjustments. But I'm still not that confident about where this team is.
That's kind of, this is everything you could have asked if you're an Alabama fan, because a lot of people are going to say, okay, it's a 34 victory against a top 25 team. Like, that's super impressive. I'm with you. Brady Cook was out. Their starting running back was out. Noel, one of their top receivers, Mookie Cooper, who had kind of been their vertical threat in a lot of situations. He was averaging close to 20 yards a catch. He was not available. Cook obviously played, but you could tell he wasn't really fully healthy when he was in there, and then he ends up going out. And so, it's tough to get a real good feel of this defense, because when you're taking away, just look at Alabama's team. Cooper has been a bigger part of their passing game than Alabama's number 3 receiver up to this point. So it's really not, apples to apples. But when you try taking away one of Jam Miller and Justice Haynes, try to take away Jalen Milroe, which some people I know, still want that to happen anyways, but take him out of the offense, take I would probably say Mookie Cooper based off of usage, a better version as far as what he means to the passing game, than maybe a Kendrick Law. Take all that stuff out and then expect Alabama to still be humming on all cylinders. Like, you just took Kendrick Law out for a few weeks, and a lot of your offense really stalled and struggled because you weren't able to do that perimeter stuff that you had done earlier in the year. And we saw a little bit of that start to return to this offense. I thought Jeremy Bernard blocked his ass off. He looked incredible as a blocker. Kendrick Law started off a little rocky. I think he was still a little rusty. Like, he played last week, but I still don't think he was 100% healthy. It seemed like they didn't ask him to do as much as far as the run blocking. He didn't have as many run blocking snaps as he typically would. And then this week, I think he started off a little bit rusty, whiffed on a couple. But when he really started to find his groove, when you had him and Bernard out there on the perimeter, and then you could also, flex some guys or get Robbie Oots out there on the perimeter to do some blocking. Just the getting the football out of Jalen Milroe's hands, letting your playmakers make some plays, some tunnel screens, some different things. I really think that this Alabama offense, it's an element that really aids this Alabama offense as far as, you take attention away from the box in the between the tackles stuff. And so as the game continued to progress, Milroe did really struggle in the beginning. He looked very much the same that he looked against South Carolina and against Tennessee. Was missing guys. The vertical passing really isn't there. I think he finished 2 for 6 for, I think like 49 yards, but really, just a lot of missed vertical shots and opportunities where guys were open. But what I will say is, as he started to get a little bit more comfortable, the offense started to move the football a little bit. He's at his best when he's really improvising and he's kind of just doing, that kind of where we reversed course and then I think took it in for a touchdown. That's the kind of stuff that makes Milroe a special player. And you started to see him return to doing some of that yesterday. And then everything else with the offense starts opening up again. Play action starts being more effective. The interior run game, the running backs doing the off tackle stuff was more effective. So Milroe really, if you're going to, make the kind of impact that I know he wants to make on this offense, he's got to be willing to do that stuff each and every week. And as he started to do that more, everything started opening up for everybody else and himself.
They also stuck to the run a lot more. This was their best running game of the season, to me, by far, right? They ended up with 37 carries for 271 yards when it was all said and done. No one had over 100, but Justice Haynes, 8 carries, 79 yards, and Jam Miller, 11 carries, 48 yards. But I just felt like it was one of those deals where you could tell they were committed to trying to run the ball, and the score helped them do that. If you're down 14, you're probably not going to do that. But in a game where it was 3-0 for a while and all that, I thought that was a good strategy.
Absolutely. And that's what we've been talking about wanting them to do, is kind of get that traditional run game going a little bit more, commit to it more. Don't go out there and give them one rushing opportunity, and then whether it works or it doesn't. Anytime they would run on first down this season, or it's kind of felt this way for at least the last several weeks, it's like, okay, if you either don't have success and you're throwing on second and long, or they do have success, and you're setting up a 2nd and 5, a 2nd and 4, a 2nd and 6, and they're going to throw the football anyways on 2nd down. It was just like clockwork, giving them a second opportunity to kind of build some momentum that just was not happening. You saw them commit to that more as this game went on. You really didn't see that early at all. But, I really feel like that they started letting their running backs get in a little bit of a groove, and it's amazing what happens when you do that. Like, you look at Haynes, I think this was easily his best, cleanest rushing performance since the Western Kentucky game. And he had some really good things against USF as well. But I think it's just as far as being a pure runner, I think his best rushing performance of the year was against Western Kentucky. And then he followed it up with a really strong performance against USF. But this was the best game that I've seen him play on that front since Western Kentucky in the opener, which means better than USF, despite the fact he didn't have as many yards. And he kind of drive that point home. Pro Football Focus, they have a missed tackles forced after the rush, and he had 6 of those on Saturday. To put that into perspective, he had 4 against USF in week 2. He's had 14 the entire season. So 10 of those came against USF and against Missouri yesterday. Otherwise, he only has 4 the entire year. His elusiveness rating, which is a stat that Pro Football Focus, it's exclusive to Pro Football Focus, but his elusiveness rating was a 550. And the only time this season that he has broken 100, which was at exactly 100, was against Georgia back in week 5. So, 550 compared to his next highest performance being 100. That's the kind of, he was making guys miss. Obviously, that truck stick touchdown run was one of the best touchdown runs I've seen in Alabama back half, just as far as the physicality that he showed. I guess it's that one move. We've seen guys do a couple of those on the same run. He really didn't do too much outside of just getting back outside and beating guys to the pylon. But I think just that, that really set the tone. I was on the sidelines. You could hear that pop. It was just this entire Alabama team, both sides of the football, I thought played with a lot more physicality, which is actually something that Kalen DeBoer brought up in his post-game press conference. And I completely agree. Just watching them, they were playing some SEC physical style of football, and I think that's the most impressive. I've seen them on that front really this year, and that includes against Georgia. And I'm really hoping that that's a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not blown away by this game. I'm glad that they won. I want to see them do well, but I just keep seeing the same issues. The score is great, but the 2 for 9 on 3rd downs, the lack of blocking. And I thought Alabama caught a lot of breaks with, the injury to Cook. When he left the game, it was absolutely over at that point. I want to look at all the positives, but man, I just keep seeing this team very flawed, and I keep waiting for them to get better, and I'm just not seeing it. I guess I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, well, at least they're not getting worse, at least not this week. But now you get into this LSU game, and they're just a flawed. To me, they're just a flawed team, and I don't know going the rest of the way. I can't pencil W's in for any of these games except Mercer. They could lose to Auburn if they don't stop the run better than Kentucky. They could lose to Oklahoma. If they make mistakes on the road, they'll probably win that game. And then this LSU game, I watched them play Texas A&M last night. They got problems on defense, but can Alabama take advantage of those?
Here's the thing. You're 100% correct. And you can't say, okay, Alabama looked good, pretty good defensively against Tennessee. They looked really good defensively against Missouri. They're turning the corner. All is forgiven with Kane Womack. I'm not saying that people should have been blaming Kane Womack in the first place, but I'm saying if you're one of those fans that was not, happy with him, really the last 2 weeks is very tough to turn that around, because Tennessee was struggling so much offensively with Nico, and just, he was turning the football over. The one thing you can bank on with this defense is they are going to, force turnovers, and we'll get to that in a second. But when it comes to Brady Cook and Drew Pine combined for 24 attempts, and they never scored a point. So they were never in the lead. And granted, for most of the first half, it was, kept relatively close, 6 points, and then it goes to 13 before halftime, if I'm not mistaken. And then, but at the same time, the entire second half, you still didn't see a ton of pass attempts because anytime Drew Pine would throw the football, he'd throw a pick, it felt like.
Yeah.
I mean, he only attempted 12 passes and 25% of them were interceptions. So, I mean, that's a tough situation for Missouri to be in. They actually had a surprisingly quite a bit of success on the ground, 167 yards, averaged 4.3 yards per run, but a lot of that was late. When Alabama was starting to put depth guys in, they really started churning out some late yardage. And so overall, I mean, a lot of 3-and-outs for the defense. That was good to see. Continue to force turnovers, and this isn't like an exclusive Missouri thing. Like, they've been forcing turnovers against Tennessee. They forced Carson Beck and one of the best teams in the country in Georgia into 4 turnovers, which is a lot. South Carolina, they forced 4 turnovers. So this is becoming a common theme for this defense. And what I'm hoping is that the offense can continue to figure things out, get back on track, start scoring that 35, 40, 45 points a game like we were, kind of expecting from this team going into the season. And then the defense can, you don't have to be, hold everybody to 0 points. You don't have to be incredible. All you have to do is if you can force 2, couple turnovers a game, you can create separation when you're in those shootout types of situations. If you can force 3 and 4, maybe get a couple 3-and-outs, which, I think this defense is very capable of, you can really create some separation. So I think that's really, really important, is understanding the dynamic of this team and making sure that you're playing complementary football. And as I said, you really started to see that over the course of yesterday. Am I like, once again, I mean, I've said kind of from the beginning, and it feels like you're very much the same way. In fact, probably way more so than me. You don't feel like everything's fixed yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, yesterday didn't convince you of that. But what I will say is I think this was very important as far as, a confidence building game. A lot have been going wrong since the second half against Georgia. Everybody was against this team. Guys start second guessing themselves. Guys get in their head. For like a guy like Milroe, everybody keeps saying he's not injured. Okay, that's fine. He's definitely been in a bad headspace. Hopefully, exiting this game, he's in a much better headspace because he started to recapture some of what's made him a really special player earlier in the year. And if you can get guys just get their confidence back, I think that can make a world of difference.
I hope so, man. I mean, that's the $1 million question is, can they hit a switch and turn the corner? They were always able to do that under Saban. Are they going to be able to do that under DeBoer? And I haven't seen that yet. When Saban's teams when you thought they were down and out, they always came, roaring back. And it just feels like that this team hasn't quite hit their stride yet. And I hope that is with a week off. They come in, and we saw it for a half against Georgia, right? But then they digressed. So I'm not going to throw the win away, but, I'll take it. But, man, I just sit here and go, it just doesn't feel like this team can win a national championship. I know they can. They've got the talent to do it, but they've got to come together. The offensive line's got to get way better to me. It starts
right. Keep them out of those 3rd and longs. That's super important. Like, I mean, you saw both your tackles. They're not built for 3rd and long. They never have. And they were in 3rd and long a lot last year. Yeah. Jalen Milroe thrived in 3rd and long situations last year, but those tackles did not. That's why you saw Caden Proctor really, really struggle as a true freshman. I do think he is much improved. I still don't think he's a guy that's going to be built for, 3rd and 16 situations, 3rd and 7 situations. And that's when you saw those sacks given up where it's obvious passing situations. Guys can pin their ears back, and that's going to happen sometimes, but limit those chances so your offensive line has a chance to hold up.
All right, let's bring on Chris Marler. Good to see you, Chris. Your thoughts on Bama's 34-0 win?
I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Why are we doing this at 9 a.m.? What's going on right now?
Gotta get up early, man. We got to give the people what they want.
Why'd you do this to me today?
It's 8 a.m. here.
Chris, you were up late celebrating last night, weren't you?
I had myself a night. Yeah, we got into some spooky seasons soft drinks or drinks that we made at the house. No, I said this to Clint repeatedly. There's nothing I love more than being right, and I felt like this going into this Missouri game. Missouri was the easiest team that was left on this schedule besides Mercer, and just because of a matchup standpoint, like. Not because I think they're overrated or because, the schedule was soft or whatever. But even without the Brady Cook situation, it just was a matchup that favored Bama in almost every sense of the word. I think the one thing I think there are things that if you're being objective and you don't want to get blinded by a 34-0 win, it's hard not to, I think, as a fan, especially after what you just watched for 3 weeks. Like, especially after what you just watched for 3 weeks, because that was effectively a back against the wall playoff elimination game against a 6-1 team. And listen, guys, going into the season, I heard a bunch of people. I love him to death, but I call him this to his face. So I'll say it here: Fat Feinbaum, Mike, SEC Mike, was like just saying all of the craziest stuff about how like Mizzou's they're gonna be favored when they go to Tuscaloosa. And it's like, okay. I mean, from a matchup standpoint, the thing that I'm taking away the most that I thought was the biggest deal for Bama, the third downs were bad. I think that's such a good point from both of you. The third down and long, I think, Mick, you brought this up last week, and then they said it on the broadcast because they were obviously listening to the show. But it was like 3rd and 3 or shorter, Bama's like second in the SEC in conversions. 3rd and 7 or longer, they are, I think it was like 15th out of the 16 teams in the conference. Like that's not going to get it done. However, the third downs were a problem. This is a defense from Missouri that had allowed 11 total pass plays all year of over 20-plus yards. Like that was best in the conference, 3rd in the country. They had allowed 16 total plays of 20 more yards all season long. That was 2nd best in the conference. I think it was like 7th or 8th in the country, something like that. It was top 10. Bama comes out and gets 12 in this game, and you got it from a number of different people. And guys, we might have equaled the season total they had allowed if Kobe Prentice could catch anything. I mean, like that was, he didn't have his best game, but Justice Haynes looked good. Jam Miller looked good. The passing game looked good at times. They finally started getting back to the identity, which was, hey, we're going to take some shots downfield, and they did. I thought it was great, and also. Good call. I'm going to call him White Boy Mick instead of White Boy Rick, the safety that Mick was all over last week and
the one you didn't know his name.
Still don't. Not gonna.
People were messaging me about the guy.
Yeah, you brought him up and you're like, yeah. How do you not know this guy? And I was like,
yeah.
I barely know what I had for breakfast. I don't know what I had to drink last night. I'll tell you that. So I think that it was a good win for a lot of reasons. And I'll tell you the last thing, what I love more than anything. That 4th and goal to preserve a shutout, bringing the starters back in, I'm glad no one got hurt, but that's the energy I want from Womack and this defensive unit the rest of the season.
Yeah, I completely agree with you as far as that, and I will say a couple things. Bray Hubbard did look incredible. I think he's a lot more physical as a run defender than what I thought he showed yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to see a little bit more in run support. Even though I thought he was fine, I don't think he was a liability in that area.
Yeah, cut on his heels once.
Yeah, but I mean, he did stand one receiver up, but I thought he was just incredible in coverage. It was not just the interception, guys. This guy, this is what I love about being at the game is that you see the big picture stuff. When you're watching at home, the broadcast, you don't see everything. Mm-hmm. But this guy he was everywhere as far as understanding his assignments. Kind of leveraging correctly, really helping out guys as far as, when he was being asked to play over the top and do all those things. But what I will say, it was more so first half than second half. And this is what's really got to get fixed. The offense being they're putting themselves in enough 3rd and long situations. What I'm getting tired of is when they do have success on early downs and it's a very manageable 3rd down situation, or maybe it's a manageable 2nd down situation, you get some sort of penalty to put them back into 2nd long or back into 3rd and long. That happened like 3 times in the first half. And it's like, man, these guys, it's like they just want to be in that situation. We had success. It's now 2nd and 3. Well, let's get a holding penalty and make a 2nd 13 real quick. We don't want none of this. And that's what's frustrating. But what I want to talk to you about, Chris, is the video that you posted that I completely did not intentionally ignore. I was very busy in the press box, but when you sent it, I did not watch it. I'll be 100% honest. And then I saw it on Twitter, which is hilarious. You sent it to me personally.
I'm back, baby.
Yeah, but you're 100% correct. That football, Mick, did you see this?
What's that?
Okay, on the play where there was confusion about, it was a running into the kicker, 5-yard penalty, and then it was a personal foul on Alabama, and then they said Bama declined, and I was up in the press box being like, there was no reason they would decline this penalty. That makes
I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah, if there wouldn't have been a penalty on Alabama, and it only would have been 5 yards, it wouldn't have got the first down, so I could see them in that situation declining. Right. But It made no sense. But then Chris showed a video replay that apparently they even talked about a little bit on the broadcast, and it's the ball clearly hit the Missouri player. Go ahead, Chris. Talk about it.
So what I don't understand at this point, we talked about this last week at the Tennessee game. We weren't blaming a loss on the refs, but you have got to figure. Mick, I think you brought this up too. There's so much money being made. There's so much money being made on this sport. There is no reason to sit here and say, all right, listen, we're making billions of dollars. Why don't we go out and just pay the refs $2,500 a game? And you have got to figure out a way to make this part more professional and more like just clean in every sense of the word, because it's so bad. And so yesterday we're watching the game, and there was a bad call early that's now escaping me.
Then it was where they didn't blow the play dead.
And
right.
One of the worst of the season.
Yeah.
So and here's what really pissed me off about that. Because listen, I like Mizzou. I joke around about Mizzou a lot. I have some of my best friends are from St. Louis and St. Charles, Missouri. Been going to Mizzou games for over a decade now. It's a really smart and fun fan base, and I respect Mizzou, and I think they get crapped on from the SEC more than they should. But the thing that pissed me off the most about that play was you've got a quarterback who is clearly very injured and trying to give it a go. And everyone in the stadium and everyone at home watching knows that this guy is not nearly 100%. Not only did you not blow the whistle dead, you didn't blow it loud enough for anyone to hear. Then you, at the very least, if that doesn't happen, if steps 1 and 2 fail, you need to run in and make sure you insert yourself in between the defender and him, because you can't allow that kid to take a cheap shot. They did none of those things, and they let this kid wide open to get hit by a 300-pound defensive lineman coming.
Not a cheap shot. I know you're not trying to say that was cheap shot
at all.
Yeah.
No one heard. He didn't hear the whistle, and then this continues to be the worst thing about watching. These games, especially from home. I'm watching it. I got Jordan Rogers and Joe Tess on the call, and the guy in his little hobbit hole of officiating, his little officiating dungeon, and they're going, okay, listen. I don't hear any whistle. I didn't hear a whistle once. Did you hear it blown dead? I didn't hear it blown dead. They go to the official, and he goes, this happened to me actually one time when I was here in Tuscaloosa, and somebody, we didn't, no one heard the whistle. Someone got hit. I would have liked to see them not call a personal foul on that situation, because dude, you go from 3rd and 7. It's a delay of game. So it should be 3rd and 12. Instead, because of what you did, you put this kid in danger, and then they get a 15-yarder for free and flip the field. It affects the game in so many different ways. But the play that he's talking about, right, that Clint's talking about, we stop them on 4th and we get a punt, right? It's a bad offensive series. They punt, they run into the kicker. I didn't know that they still had running into the kicker. I thought it was only a 15-yarder, but I guess I was wrong about that. So they hit Burnup, they punt, and you see in the live shot multiple Bama players scrambling to dive on the ball, multiple, which would already allude to the fact that there's probably a fumble. And then you see them get up and start putting their hands up like all excited,
our ball.
It's going this way, which would be the second clue that it would be a fumble. They convene for 12 minutes, and it's just not 12 minutes. It's way too long, and they're going, okay, and they're looking only at the Missouri sideline, and I was like, why are they this is either a fumble or it's a roughing the kicker, and we're getting the first down either way. And they said there's 2 fouls on the play. There's running into the kicker, which was declined, which I have never heard in my life. When
there's a penalty on the other team.
No, it may be if there's if something happens where you get one in coffin corner and it goes down to the 1 yard line. But I've never seen that in the 38 years of watching football. Never once.
Well, now granted, you do see it if it's if it's 3rd and whatever it was, 3rd and 11, and the 5 yards still, 4th and 11, and 5 yards only gets them 4th and 6, and you like the punt and the field position,
right?
Put yourself in, you might decline it in that situation. But I've never seen someone decline it when there's also a penalty on them to counteract that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they're going. They said that penalty's declined. Then there's a 15-yard penalty on Kendrick Law. I'm like, here we go again. What did he do this time? And it was because of unnecessary roughness. Then they show the play, and it's like, it's a weak personal foul for one. And then two, he's trying to get somebody off the pile to recover a fumble. And all the while I'm screaming at the TV, and I'm like, how is no one talking about this review? How is no one talking about this review? They never showed it again. Mm-hmm. They never showed an angle of it hitting his foot. They never said a single thing about it. And then finally, after all this stuff goes on, I look at Allie and I go, hold on. I don't ever do this during Bama games because I don't want to be behind. I'm like, I rewind in the middle of the game to go back to see this. Sure as shit, they come back and they show the punt. It hits off the kid's foot, or at least appears to. They never addressed it once. And again, I understand that the end of that game turned into 34-0. But I am so tired of on Saturdays watching games. And now we get it worse on YouTube because you get a multi-view and you get to see bad calls in all four boxes. Like, yeah. It's just so bad. It's gotten so bad. And Mick, I'll send or Clint send him the tweet or something like that. But it's just clear as day. And the fact that all the context clues from everyone, I don't know if they need more officials. I don't know if they need like more interference from like the booth or whatever. But like, it's on a week-to-week basis. They have no clue what they're doing.
I agree, man. I mean, and I wonder if part of this is that, you know, Nick Saban, they were all kind of scared of Nick Saban, or maybe they respected him or whatever. DeBoer does not get that respect, you know. Yeah. I mean, this is the worst officiated season I can remember. We've had some, you know, bad calls, but this year's been crazy bad. It's to the point where you're just going every week, like you're just waiting for anytime something good happens to see these officials screw it up.
Yeah.
And I you know, sometimes I wonder, I'm watching LSU and Texas A&M, you know, and you see some of the plays in that game, the South Carolina game, you know, LSU seems to get a lot of these good calls. I mean, I don't know. Is it just by chance or what, you know? I mean, and I'm not implying that the officials are pulling for LSU or going against Alabama, but there's a lot of money on the line right now.
Yeah.
A lot of money. And you can bet anywhere you want, right? And it's something that the FBI keeps an eye on every week. They flag games every week. If you want it to basically fix the outcome of a game, that's one way to do it. Or maybe they just need to go out and pay to have pros in there that aren't, like I said, real estate agents and, you know, grounds crew guys and, you know, whatever they're doing during the week, and have people that are better at doing the job. But it's terrible. I mean, it's just terrible. It ruins the fun of watching the game sometimes.
I did a deep dive on this the last 2 weeks, because like, I'll tell you what, one thing I've learned about being a Bama fan and also being in this job, if you go to if you present something in a situation where it's like, look how unfair this is to Alabama, no one's going to care. No. Right. But like, that is, you're not going to get any kind of sympathy from anyone being a Bama fan, which is totally fine. And I get it. I hate the Yankees, so I totally understand. But like, going into this weekend, there were 8 of the 16 teams in the SEC. 8. That's half of the teams in the league were ranked 96th or worse in the country in penalties. Now, here's the thing. You can sit here and be like, oh, well, they're just undisciplined, because Bama has ranked in the bottom 3 of the SEC. They ranked in the bottom 3 in 3 of the last 5 years that Saban was there, right? Like, I mean, they weren't very good in discipline in the eyes of, compared to how they were like in the first 10 years of his tenure there. But like 8 of the 16 teams being 96th or worse in the entire country feels like an issue, because, guys, you look around the league, you're paying the most for these coaches. You have unlimited salaries and staff and numbers like that. It can't be that they're all that undisciplined at just how to play the actual game. It just can't be. So I don't know what it is. And I'll tell you what, I know that Mick is a better person than me to say, I'm not going to say LSU's getting the favorable calls. Texas sure as shit is. It is wild to watch that. Like, anytime something happens to Texas, you're like Vandy yesterday on 4th and 1 gets it's a trick play. They get like a 20-yard gain. Like, back it up.
Yeah, right. You mean, are you talking about the time that they got a bad call and then it's the first time in my life I've ever seen the officials like get together and unfuck up their call,
right?
Like on it's not a reviewable call.
No,
they get together and they're like, you know what? We're definitely not supposed to throw these against Texas, man. So let's fix this.
There's water bottles coming, guys.
Yeah. Okay, beer bottles. Okay, I might be switching some calls too, but some water bottles.
Yeah. Yeah. The only way that could have been funnier is if they would have opened one of the water bottles and there was like a message in the bottle that was like, you better fucking stop.
I will say though, you're 100% correct, because like the one where he gets where Brady Cook gets hit, I understand why Eli Drinkwitz would be very upset about that. It's an unnecessary shot, but you penalized Alabama for your mistake. Like you're 100% correct. You insert yourself in between the players if you can, but at the very least, you are hammering that whistle. I mean, we've all been a part of it. When guys are pushing each other after a play, they'll start blowing that damn whistle nonstop to try to get people's attention. None of that. You might have heard a slight one, you know, like going back and listening, like I think I might have heard one, but there's nothing clear. And it was like half the people were going, half the people weren't. And then you're like, you know what? We screwed up. We didn't blow this play dead, but we're definitely going to put this on the Alabama player because we got to make up for the fact that Missouri's quarterback just took a shot and he didn't have to. But that wasn't Alabama's fault. I mean, and then when you look at it, you're also correct on the punt hitting the Missouri player, because he turns around and he's like, oh shit. He tries to get on it. All the Bama players are jumping on it. And apparently, according to people, and I haven't gotten this far in the broadcast version, but they said that they did talk about it a little bit. Like the rules official came on for briefly and he brought up, talked about it, but then they got to discussing, whether Alabama was going to accept or decline, what was going on. There was so much confusion on that front that they just ignored it. I think they realized that they screwed up royally. And I think everybody on TV was like, let's just not address this. Because after the Texas situation, literally the week before, we probably we can't have something like this happening. But it was so blatant to me and maybe they can claim that they did review it and they didn't see anything, but you've got to give fans, this shouldn't be a question, is my point. Bring up if you got an angle where it didn't hit the guy, you need to show everybody that angle on TV and say, no, this was not a botch call by the officials, because now they're getting blamed for one that they didn't really botch. At the very least, you need to protect them in that way. The only reason you wouldn't, in my opinion, is if they did botch the call and you're trying to ignore it. So that also tells me that was a freaking fumble and it should have been Alabama football.
Dude, there's just no way. Like, I distinctly remember when they changed the targeting rule in 2013. I have never lost my mind. Like in my life, I've never lost my mind the way I did when Clinton Dix was called for targeting against Johnny Manziel and A&M in College Station. And because then it was like, he's automatically out of the game. And it was like, they're showing the replay and it's not even close. I don't think it was reviewable then. That took a while to figure out targeting. They might still not know what targeting is. That has become like a running joke. And that part I'm almost okay with, because it's like, okay, it's a bang, bang play. You got kids that are like lowering down and then like, trying to juke at the last second, or like that part I understand. That is a bang bang thing that's difficult to call. Saying that Bama declined a run like what? Like that part is just technically you are not sound in what you're doing and you don't know what you're talking about. And I think Mick is also right about this too. I think that like DeBoer, I think, does not garner a lot of respect from these people as of right now. And he's not getting, like the benefit of the doubt on these things. That doesn't mean that Bama should be getting away with calls. It just means that maybe if you go to Knoxville, because here's the last thing I'll say about the refs. And we spent a lot of time talking about the refs today. But like, here's the last thing I'll say about the refs. The one thing that does feel very, very real on top of them not knowing what's going on from moment to moment, it does feel that just like college basketball, they get swept up in the emotion of the game, and they get swept up in if you're on a sideline that is like, begging for a call on the road or like at home especially, and they're calling for pass interference, it does feel like more often than not that person is going to react to 100 kids on that team screaming at him for a flag, and the coach is screaming at him for a flag, and the fans screaming at him for a flag. It does feel like that person is going to, for whatever reason, be swayed every time it happens. It just, like, plain as day.
Brought to you by mybookie.ag. Guys, use the promo code next round to double your initial deposit at mybookie.ag. Still so many different things going on. The World Series with the Dodgers up now 2-0 heading back to New York. You want to get in on that? You got the NBA, LeBron James and his son. That if he wasn't James, he probably wouldn't even be in the NBA, but they're together, and it's something that you can keep an eye on as far as NBA basketball is concerned. Alabama, number 2 in the polls, some of the polls. College basketball about to tip off, and the Crimson Tide hoping to have their championship season start. You got college football. I mean, we're full swing college football, all that. Mybookie.ag. Use that promo code next round to double your initial deposit. And today's the last day. You're watching this on Sunday. You watch it on Monday, be too late. $1 off, $1 to join Cover Crimson. But it ends on today. So if you're going to do it. You want to get in now, because when you're in the message board, you're going to get, as we upgrade this message board, and we're in the process right now of redoing everything, you're going to get this medallion next to your name, this badge that says you're an OG. You're one of the originals on Cover Crimson. So the only way you're going to have it is if you're here from the beginning. So the beginning's like right now, but it's about to end. So take advantage of that. If you do the annual subscription, you get this guy right here. Look, and I know $100. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not that much. And you get this T-shirt, and you get the badge, and you get to hang out with us. I mean, what could be better? I don't know. Let's talk to Clint every day about Alabama football, Chris, and Stacy, and everybody else on there. So roll Tide, guys. All right, final thoughts on just this Missouri game and going into the off week for Alabama. I'll start, guys. I feel like Alabama has a lot of work to do. I'm not comfortable with where this team is right now. I'm not putting it on Jalen Milroe. I know some of you guys are. He still looks injured to me. Other people say he doesn't. I don't see the acceleration with the run, even with the big run that he had. I didn't see that same acceleration. And for LSU, they get to catch him after a week off when he gets healthy. And you remember what happened to him last year when, he blew through him. I hope that happens. I hope a week off, rest, and he can get back. And mentally too. It looks like that mentally the guy's just kind of at the end of his rope. But I thought he did a really good job yesterday of being a leader. I saw him waiting for everybody to come off the field, going over to the coordinator and congratulating him on a shutout. Being a leader isn't always being your best. You want to be your best, but he stayed positive, and this is the guy that this team looks to. So, but Bama's got to be better on third down. The offensive line, they're not what I thought they were going to be, but that doesn't mean they can't be what I thought they're going to be. They got, 4 games to do that, and it starts with LSU. But you know what? They get a week off. They're still in the mix to make the college football playoff. So with 4 games to go, they're still in position to achieve the goal that they set out to, and that's win a national championship. Chris?
So I thought it was a great win. Thought it was huge to kind of build the confidence thing. Here's what I was hoping for more than anything was have a good win, leave no doubt, and go into the bye week much like you did before the Georgia thing. If we can recreate whatever happened in that first 30 minutes against Georgia, I think this team can be world beaters. We haven't seen it since the first 30 minutes. But if you're trying to recreate that, you remember what happened against a good Wisconsin team, by the way, that you go on the road, you beat them like a drum. Then you come back, you get the bye week, and then you get Georgia. And they came out of the gates, swinging against Georgia. It's a road game. Anyone that has ever heard me talk about this road game knows the one stat that I love to bring up. I hear that, Death Valley is very, very scary for a lot of people. It's not scary for Alabama. All right. Bama's lost there 6 times in 67 years. So take that confidence, go into the bye week, go into next week, get healthy where you can. And honestly, man, I think you're now in a situation where you're not going to lose Oklahoma. You're not going to lose to Mercer. I don't think you're going to lose Auburn. You have a situation. You have a scenario 2 Saturdays from now where if you win, you are going to make the college football playoff. So go win. Go win. I thought it was a great win against Missouri. I loved what I saw from most of it, especially in the second half and putting the team away. Also, real quick, shout out to Kane Womack. I know that guy has got a lot of heat for some of the stuff that's happened over the last couple of weeks, especially at the South Carolina game, some in the Tennessee game. But it's also a defense that hasn't allowed a first quarter point in 2 straight weeks. They have not allowed a first quarter point in 4 of their last 5 games. So you just need the offense to get ahead and be a little bit better on script early.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, if you could just get the offense going with the way that the defense has been limiting in the first quarter, you can really jump out some big leads. And then it's about maintaining. But I think with the offensive line, I'm hoping this bye week really helps guys like Jaden Roberts. What you're seeing is, as far as the snap counts, like I think Jaden Roberts played 45 and Geno Vandermark played 21. So it's been fairly even, obviously leaning a little Jaden Roberts because he hadn't been 100%, but you're starting to see it become a little bit more lopsided, which is hopefully telling us, not definitive, but hopefully telling us that they're feeling more and more comfortable with Jaden Roberts playing a larger percentage of the snaps because he's starting to get more healthy. You give him a couple of weeks off, or a couple of weeks off from playing a game, maybe he can go into that LSU game a little bit healthier. And I don't think people realize, because he's been so limited, I don't think he's been the same caliber of run blocker. He's always been a guy who's going to whiff blocks quite a bit, but it's just as far as, the consistency and playing the position, I think that's created. When you talk about Parker Brailsford, very scrappy guy, better run blocker than you would think for an undersized player. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about the fact that he has some size limitations playing next to an injured Jaden Roberts or a Geno Vandermark, who's actually been really effective in pass protection, but has not been effective as far as being a run blocker, it's really created a lot of issues as far as the interior run. So I'm hoping, if Roberts can have some time to get a little bit healthier, that will really help the interior run, that will help the off tackle stuff, and that'll help really the entire offense in general. But that remains to be seen. You got to avoid those 3rd and long situations. It's not an offensive line that's built for that. Really, outside of Parker Brailsford and Tyler Booker can hold up in pass protection, but everybody else, they're fine at times, but very inconsistent. So you don't want to put them in those positions. But avoid the penalties, get that cleaned up. Some of them are unavoidable, but there's a lot that can be avoided. Get back to Jalen Milroe playing confident football, play to his strengths. And, hopefully he can get back on track as far as the deep ball, because if he can get that back under control, then I really think this offense can be as dynamic as we all thought that it could be. But, just need to continue to see improvement, take advantage of the bye week, and, come out strong. LSU is going to present way more problems offensively than Tennessee or, Missouri. That's the bottom line. So the performances we've seen the last couple of weeks, that's not, even though I've been, okay with it, I think it's been solid performances. That's not going to hold up against LSU in a couple of weeks. You need to be even better. And so hopefully having some time to reflect and figure some things out, they can continue to grow and be better, because they certainly have the talent. But I thought it was a really impressive win, and a get right win for Alabama, and they just need to carry that momentum into the bye week and then into LSU.
All right, that does it for us on this Sunday, guys. Thanks for hanging. Roll Tide, 34-zip win. Sounds good. Looks good on paper. And a week off, but we'll be covering everything here on Cover Crimson. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Now, I know that's hit the bell. That's 3 different things we ask you to do, and we know you're not Auburn fans. You can figure that out. They always say, well, don't throw people too many things to have to do, but we know who they're talking about. You guys can do all 3. Thank you for being here on Cover Crimson. Things are going well on the channel. It's because of you guys. So appreciate y'all, and have a great Sunday, and Roll Tide.